Hi, I'm the Free American Thinker, and I wanted to talk today about really the idea of what a corporation is, how a little bit about the history of how they were created, particularly in the terms of the United States, and the purpose that they serve in today's world, and really more importantly in tomorrow's world. And the reality is that going forward into the future, they will serve less of a purpose. Although they're trying really hard, at least the people behind the behind the scenes, controlling those shell piece of papers, really, they're trying to change that. So, in essence, all a corporation is a piece of paper, a stack of legal documents, where a group of people, i.e., the equity shareholders, have the rights to use the ideas related to that company. So that's the idea of a brand, that's the idea of having access to certain bank accounts, that's the idea of having access to certain factories. Essentially, all a corporation is that these groups of people have a legal representation in the court system of whatever company or country that they're existing in, to do business for a profit as granted to them by the people of that country, right? So you as a person and us as a nation, the United States, we have every right to kick a company out of our homes, out of our communities, and out of our countries. That's a damn fact. Okay. But once you understand that all it is a piece of paper, it's really an open shut case here. Companies, particularly in the United States, were created and born out of the industrial age and the industrial revolution, and took place of what was typically monarchs and other kingdoms in old Europe. When we created the New World in America, there was no monarch, there was no province, kings didn't own whole swaths of lands, there weren't people with a bunch of peasants, it was literally a free people, we the people, by the people, a government by the people, for the people, and essentially had a bunch of, people just stuck in the wilderness on the East Coast, having to produce things for themselves because there was no one to answer to, right? It's like, hey, there's a big forest over there. If you want it, go take an axe and cut it down and if you can build a house, you have the right to build a house there. And the reality is that that's very difficult. Okay, the reality is that Earth is a very big place and humans are very small, and it's a very dense environment. We can't just think things into existence as if we were in the fourth or fifth dimension, which is possible in those worlds. Not right now for us. But essentially, wood has to be cut down, water has to be provided, food has to be grown, sewage has to be removed and processed, infrastructure for goods and services to prevent death have to be created, and corporations were a way of basically taking the place of the idea of a monarch or the idea of an entity or group where of resources being controlled and directed by a relatively small number of people, i.e. the shareholders, to do something for the people for a profit. Now, companies have always existed before the United States. The West Indies Company, the trade company that went across the Atlantic Ocean, those are ideas of companies for sure. And a lot of them were very big. Some of them would rival the size of a DuPont today, or an Apple. But companies primarily serve the purpose of commoditizing the cost of infrastructure within a country, within the nation, right? So it is Chevron that commoditizes the cost of transportation. It is, H.R. Horton or whoever that commoditizes the cost and makes home buying cheaper for everybody. It's Ford that commoditizes the cost again for transportation. You can take a look at some food processors or some of the bigger growers that commoditize the cost of food being grown and produced to go to the grocery store. Walmart commoditizes the cost of the consumption of food, and by the reducing of that cost, it reduces the raw cost of basic inputs to do business closer to zero. That then allows individuals and primarily sole proprietorships to have lower investment costs and risks associated when they're building up their new business. So that is the main purpose that corporations serve. It's a longer conversation, but I wanted to just briefly bring that up as to where they fit in, and that is the primary source, which is they are entities of scale that allow the ability for us, we the people, to have lower costs of inputs for our day-to-day lives. And that's it. The truth is inside you. God bless.